It's 3:15, and that means it's time for
The Real Deal with Bill McNeil.
That's right. Welcome once again to The Real Deal with Bill McNeil. I'm your host, Bill McNeil, and you're probably wondering exactly what is the real deal today.
Hey, good question.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. There's some interesting information coming out about Diamond Comics this week regarding the sales, which actually look pretty solid despite the loss of DC Comics in their first full year back with no pandemic shutdown. But there was another ally for Diamond that spoke up this week, Todd McFarlane, and I decided to bring Todd McFarlane, super fan and Marvel aficionado, Doc, on the channel to talk about this. How you doing, Doc?
I'm wonderful, sir. Thank you for having me on, and let's talk about this.
So it's been an interesting year for Diamond Comics Distributors. Obviously, well over a year ago, they lost DC after the shutdown, and it definitely appeared that Diamond wasn't exactly pushing to get back up and running anytime soon. They brought in two new distributors online, essentially forcing Diamond to come back to the table. Ended up going exclusively with Lunar and UCS. There's only Lunar now. And then later on, we find out that Marvel was leaving. Obviously, the biggest comic publisher that they were distributing in North America. We're going to Penguin Random House. So you got your top two. That's like well over 70% of all comics distributed through Diamond that they would have lost. But they also lost IDW. Up until that point, would have been the number 4 publisher after Image Comics. It should be number 5 now because of Boom. But one company that has stayed true is Image Comics. And it sounds like loyalty is very important to Todd McFarlane. And this is the quote that he said. I think it's pretty much what makes the world go round. And that's people think that they can make more money doing it another way. I wish the world we live in is based on loyalty, but I can't say that. So if somebody says to you, well, if you do it this way, we can save 4%. That's 4% of a huge amount of money. These are big companies and they make economic decisions, good, bad, or indifferent. Absolutely. I'm certainly certain that this had a lot to do with the bottom line.
I feel like the bottom line had something to do with this,
yes.
But I don't feel like this was ever really a bottom line decision. I mean, long term, yes. But I think it was a lot of companies looking at Diamond as a sinking ship and saying, let's find a more stable long-term solution because Diamond isn't going to be here in a couple of years.
Well, interesting enough, we do have the sales numbers that Diamond put out at the Retailers Summit, and according to their numbers, sales from compared to 2019, the last full year that they had distribution with no shutdown, Diamond Comic Distributors sales were up 18%, and they also shared some other comparisons. Comic sales specifically were up 19.5%, graphic novels up 45%, collector supplies 18%, and then cards were up 135%. So there's been a tremendous amount of growth even after losing DC Comics, and that's good. I can see where that growth would come from. You've had the massive success of Berserker. You've had the massive success of King Spawn, and a lot of these other indie books have really stepped up to the plate and really had these enormous launches, Doc. And Berserker's kept those numbers really high. But they're all gimmick to hell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, okay, they're 20% higher than before DC left. And you know what? That is good. But
it's phenomenal because, they lost 30% of their market space.
Yeah. But at the same time, you've got Marvel that's still there under these numbers. They're still being counted. They have gone so far in gimmicky, artificially pumped sales numbers. It's not even funny at this point. Image has been doing a lot of variants over the last couple of years. They've also now Image in fairness has also been launching a lot of new product over those 2 years that have actually had some decent acclaim. I mean, hell, Todd's basically turned Spawn into a franchise finally. But other companies like Boom, even IDW were up for the most part during a lot of this. But really, I mean, all their major gains here are all in ancillary stuff. Diamond, I don't think in the long term Diamond's going to be a comic distributor. I think they're going to be selling all the comic related stuff.
That's where they're going to be a wholesaler.
Yeah, not only that, but I'm talking about like
I got you.
Like supplies. Yeah. They're going to be much more like an Office Depot to for nerds. So I do like that, but at the same time, I still don't think that they're going to be their long-term viability is there.
I agree with you, and I think this is one place where I completely disagree with Todd McFarlane's take. I got another quote to take on this, but I appreciate his sense of loyalty to Diamond, even though they were probably the biggest liability in the entire comic book industry. We certainly saw that during the pandemic shutdown. That wasn't a good thing. And I think bringing competition online in the form of Lunar and Penguin Random House were necessary and very good for the industry. But I do think he misses a point here. And in fact, what he's saying here kind of just, I don't think he realizes the way this could be interpreted. But this is the other big quote he said. Let me say this. Every big company, every CEO who makes these decisions, they're not effing right all the time. They're big, powerful, and have success at certain times. But if people in big companies were so effing smart, then even Pan Am would be around today. Just take a look at the Dow Jones from 1965, and a third of those companies aren't even around anymore. They don't even exist on this planet. I'm sure people at that time thought they were so smart and made all the right decisions, but that's not always that's not always what happens. So I think they're doing what they think is smart for today, and history will show us what happens next. What he's saying there is if you do not adapt to, well, he's saying, companies fail all the time, but the companies that fail are the ones that don't adapt to the market. They don't adapt to the new technology. They don't adapt to the way that businesses are moving forward. And there is no indication whatsoever that Diamond has been willing to invest any money in upgraded infrastructure, and other things that they would need as far as, new equipment and everything to adapt to the new market that has emerged. And they were steadily falling behind and holding really the entire comic industry hostage and down with them. So McFarlane's right. Yes, companies fail because they don't adapt to the situation. I don't understand how he thinks or what evidence he has that Diamond has has done that for the past 10, 15 years.
They haven't. I mean, you can look at just when DC went to Lunar and whatever the hell the other one was.
UCS.
UCS. Just overall the packaging. It was night and day between those new upstart distributors and what Diamond had been doing. And even after that, what did Diamond do? They added some extra bubble wrap and slapped a little thing in there saying, hey, thanks for sticking with us. Like they stuck a flyer in there. Good job. That didn't help. You still have the same amount of damaged product. You still have all of the things that the comic retailers hated about Diamond remained after that. Nothing improved. Diamond, even with competition staring in the face, didn't bother to improve. Not in a marketably.
There's a lot of evidence that the reason that DC, when they first brought in Lunar and UCS as competition, that were going to be distributing their comics, Diamond was still a DC distributor. The reason that they cut out Diamond altogether and closed that 24-year relationship was because Diamond wouldn't talk to them about how they were going to move forward. All that they would talk to them about is when are Lunar and UCS going away?
Yes.
Because all they cared about was the competition. They didn't care about improving.
Yeah, exactly. Like DC brought those in order to be a catalyst for maybe Diamond to improve. Diamond was only concerned about, well, we'll do it a little cheaper for you as long as you make those guys go away. No, they wanted better. They wanted better service, and Diamond is happy to rest on its laurels. They were able to be, come out of the distributor war as the monopoly for the comic industry. And what incentive did they ever have to change? Nobody ever left them. They could fight about it. They could bitch about things, but nobody ever left until DC did. And even after that, they still didn't improve their work. They didn't streamline and their logistics. They didn't improve the overall quality of product packaging and delivery. They didn't optimize things in the way that they should have. They didn't modernize at all. And the only person that seems to be really confused on why, when other options finally presented themselves as to why you would go with one of those other options, seems to be Todd here. He's the only one confused.
Well, it's interesting. It seemed like their response to what DC did was to send Steve Jeppy out on like a tour to go out there and say that, we're financially, nothing's happened, we're in great shape, and then try to leverage the situation with the pandemic shutdown by throwing like a little an extra logo on there to say this was a pandemic era comic book and make it more collectible. Gimmick the thing, because that's all that they essentially know as far as marketing and getting comic books out there. That's probably an overstatement, but that's one of their go-tos that they do know. And they decided they were going to gimmick the situation. Remember, they had the comeback shirt. Oh yeah, and, it was a massive failure because they could never acknowledge why DC would want to walk away.
Yes,
and what they needed to improve.
Because look, this is so emblematic of so many companies these days, where they think, no, it's like they're all that Mr. Skinner fucking meme from The Simpsons. Am I just old? No, it's these kids that are wrong. It's the customer. It's the one that we're supplying our service or good to. They're the one that's wrong, not us. Because none of these goddamn companies will ever take a look in the mirror and accept the fact that, hey, we're not doing the job we need to. We've grown to this size. We have grown beyond criticism. We are monopolies beyond criticism. We are entertainment brands beyond criticism. F you guys. You could do it better.
So I think DC made the right move, and they were bold and said, no, this needs to change, and we need to get things moving. People need to keep working. They need to get the product out. And they've got their own system over there at Lunar now. UCS is gone. It's just Lunar. We know Scout is over there with them. Yep. Marvel took an even bolder step. They went out there and went to Penguin Random House, who's never distributed comic books before, but is like the biggest distributor of books in North America, maybe in the world. And that has a potential of opening a lot of new doors for Marvel's product. Obviously, IDW decided to follow them along over to Penguin Random House. But it does leave Todd and Image Comics in a ideal situation working with Diamond. They are the big fish in the pond now. They don't have to acquiesce to anything that DC or Marvel wants. They're going to be at the front of the line. If they want changes made, they can probably dictate things here and there. And they will get, the backing of a company that has distributed comic books far longer than Lunar, and Penguin Random House just starts this month. So they do know the market, and they do know how to get comic books out there, whether things improve or not. It does leave Image in an ideal situation, to be the big fish there.
It does, but it also puts them. See, the Penguin Random House thing, I like it. But that is hugely risky in my opinion.
Absolutely. Marvel could be an afterthought in a week.
Exactly. And it does give them kind of a leg up in potential avenues for distribution, but it also means that they could be forgotten like tomorrow's, like today's sandwich by tomorrow. And Penguin Random House wouldn't bat an eye at it. And in which case, then, I do feel good and bad for Image here, because right now, they can dictate those terms. Now, whether or not Diamond actually listens, look, when DC, a company that had 30% of the market and was 30% of their business, tried dictating things, Diamond said, F you guys, we don't care. Then Marvel would try to make demands of Diamond, and they'd say basically, F you guys, we don't care. Now, okay, Image is like 80% of their business now that both Marvel and DC are gone. So
I bet it's more like,
well, it's probably like 60.
It's because probably even less than that, because all that's left over, it might be 50 or less.
Yeah, but regardless, I mean, it
but
depends
I get
on
what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, they are a large chunk of Diamond at this point. And even then, Diamond could still, knowing their business history here, they're very, very likely to say, F you guys, we don't care. What are you going to do? Leave? And
that's the thing. Now they have places to go. You can go to Lunar. You can go to Penguin Random House. This could be an impetus for change. And McFarlane has always been somebody that's on the forward-thinking scope. You look at his toy lines. You look how he's revitalized Spawn, turned it into a franchise and things like this. With somebody like a McFarlane or maybe a Robert Kirkman, who's also not afraid to take chances, maybe pushing the envelope with Diamond, they could really realistically improve if they listen.
If they listen, but Diamond is not known to listen to their clients. And
it's cost them, 65-70% of their market.
Exactly. But what's to prevent them from deciding, we're fine with losing even more and more and more. All this requires a degree of ability to look at themselves in the mirror and find their actual faults and recognize that the faults that they're being pointed out to by other people are accurate and that they need to change them. And it's like that girlfriend or boyfriend that you date for a while, and the last 5 or 6 people that you've dated all point out the exact same flaw in you, and you somehow think that it's their fault, not your own. Everybody's pointing out your same flaw. Fix it. I mean, seriously.
I'll say this, Doc. If DC leaving, Marvel leaving, IDW leaving, their top 4, distributors.
3 of the top 4, yeah.
3 of the top 4 leaving in succession within a matter of like 15 months doesn't make them realize that they need to change things and provide better service, then nothing will, and they probably need to go away anyway.
Exactly. I mean, and I think that's where it's leading to. Now, Todd's kind of put himself in an awkward position here because he's basically decided to entirely bunker down with Diamond at this point. So if a year from now Image goes, F this, we're leaving, then I mean, Todd's got some egg on his face. I don't know whether and his ego might prevent him from doing it. I don't know. But it also might be like, I was wrong. Let's go.
Hey,
so who knows?
That's the risk that they've decided to take. DC's taken their risk. Marvel and IDW took their risk. And obviously Image is taking their risk that they think Diamond can turn things around. We shall see. And McFarlane has declared that they are going to be loyal to him. That's not undying loyalty. We know that, Doc. Eventually, if they have to go, they will go. So interesting stuff.
I'm looking forward to what the next year or two brings in this.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.